Since arriving in the park, this has been our first sighting of gemsbok, or oryx. This family had a few youngsters amongst them, and you could see that they were always lagging behind. Those horns, so incredibly typical of these animals. Almost like lances, very, very strong, very straight, and I'm sure a formidable weapon when needed. They eventually did reach the water, and also once again, even there, very, very carefully, very aware of everything around them, constantly looking up. I was quite intrigued that the period of staying at the waterhole and drinking was a very short space of time, and I expected them to stay much longer, but very short drink, and then they turned around and headed off back into the direction that they came from. And once again, pretty much in single file, they walked out into the middle distance. And now I can see why they're so skittish. Also, since arriving in the park, our first sighting of this magnificent male lion. Yeah, if I was a gemsbok, I'd also be skittish. Masterful and obviously in control, and very casually he strolled off down to the waterside also. This is the king of this area, and this is clear, and he knows it.
Elephants tend to adjust their feeding patterns in accordance with the seasons, and at this time of year, with the grass so dry, we often see them kicking at the bases of the grass to feed on the roots. All the nutrients for the dead grass leaves are stored in the base of the stem, and this is obviously what they're after, with the nutritional value stored there. Several of the big bulls come down to the water's edge and drink deeply. The great white egret watches curiously and quite carefully, and the bulls drink deeply right next to us. On the far side of the floodplain, several other elephant herds are making their way out of the Mopani forest down to the water's edge. A nice variety of several herds here. There are plenty of youngsters with the herds, and they all spread out across the far bank. These herds tend to move as small family units, but they join up into larger herds and often move as a larger herd. One of the smaller herds decides to cross the water, and all bunched together they They enter the long stretch of water that they must cross. They all plough their way through, and halfway through some of them stop to drink and just enjoy the cool water. Despite the nights and mornings being cold here, it's still warm during the day. The herd push on towards us, and as they start approaching the near bank, they hesitate. They're unsure of the other herd on this side, and they start becoming anxious. There's several youngsters that are struggling through the water. A couple of them are incredibly young. Elephants are incredibly protective, and they're very careful of the young, and the herd as a whole will look after youngsters such as this. This herd moves on out of the water and past us, avoiding the herd on the near side, and they move off into the bush and continue westwards. They make their way out of a large island and across an open plain beneath a very impressive baobab tree in the area. The herd's relaxed a bit now and is more spread out. They all file past the baobab tree and into the afternoon.
Here I found a colony of porcelain fiddler crabs. As with other fiddler crabs, one claw is greatly enlarged. And it was interesting to see that this could be the right or the left claw. One area only, a number of crabs started to wave this claw about in the air, and I know this is the males signaling to try to attract a female. The smaller claw is used for feeding, and this activity the crabs engage in almost continuously when they're on the sand, scooping up sand into their mouth parts, extracting some small microbes or algae or something else. Here we can see this crab rolling some sandy material out of its burrow. And of course, all over the sand here around the burrows, you can see little round pellets of sand that has been rolled out in this manner.
The white-breasted cormorants here at Lake Sabaya generally dive deeper than the other birds, and their main food source is one of the tilapia species. The lake is thought to have once been joined to the ocean, but subsequently the dunes have formed a barricade where it is now completely isolated. In this shot, you can actually see one of the youngsters shoving his whole head into the mouth of the adult to try get a meal. The adults will regurgitate fish that they've caught during the day to feed the youngsters, who at this stage are still unable to leave the nest and fend for themselves. This colony of birds has made this corner of the lake their home for many years, and in particular this tree. The throat action of this particular adult seems to me like he has a built-in radiator, whereas it is probably a cooling mechanism that the animal uses to bring down its core body temperature. From there, we decided to have a slightly closer look, and we went into the undergrowth underneath where the colony was nesting. As you get below the colony, there is an absolute assault on the senses, particularly the nose. It seemed to be very acidic, and there wasn't much plant life or growth, but rather everything seemed to be dying, even though guano was a popular fertilizer at one stage. From below, we could see a lot of the chicks in the nests. They mostly seem to be older chicks, and we're waiting for the adults to return for the meal of the day. Once the adult returns to the nest, the juvenile seems to be most persistent in trying to get the adult to divulge with some of its daily take. Here in this case, it doesn't seem to be having much luck. One can't be sure if it's already eaten and just being ever ambitious, or perhaps the adult has not had such a successful day fishing as it would have liked.